The reality, where is it? In the markets or the real economy? Because the markets is just all pessimism. In the real economy and from executives at Davos, it seems everything's okay. Is it somewhere in between?
Well, I think the reality is, of course, somewhere in between, but the situation is that everything is very volatile, and it is going to continue to remain uncertain and volatile as far as the global economy is concerned. Because let's face the fact, there are going to be divergent monetary policies. The commodity prices are not going to go up in a hurry. Some of the large economies are facing a slowdown. So it's going to be an uncertain and a volatile year.
My colleague Guy and I were talking about the feedback loop from the markets into the real economy, and I just wonder what the feedback loop is from China, global financial markets, and into India, and into your industry, into your bank specifically. What is it?
So first of all, India per se actually is standing out as a very sweet spot currently, because with whatever is happening globally, India's macroeconomic indicators are very stable, whether it's the currency relative to the other currencies in the world, the foreign exchange reserves, the current account deficit, the inflation control, and so on. So I think that's one very good part. The second is at the ground level, we are now seeing a little bit of movement because of the impact of government spends and increase in coal production and so on and so forth. So there's some movement even in the real economy on the positive side. But we must remember that, anything that happens in China, it's such a large economy, no country in the world cannot get impacted. So clearly we are seeing, our exports are not growing as much, even in value terms, as they were in the past. And I think all this is a result of what happens in the large economies elsewhere.
Chanda, for your bank, though, specifically, when you wake up and you see the stock in the red and the performance of your bank hasn't changed, is that a reflection of the performance of your bank, or is it just a proxy for what's going on in the global economy? What do you say to that when you wake up and you see the red on the Bloomberg terminal screen?
No, I think it's the result of what's happening globally. It's the result of what are the expectations in India about the growth pickup, because remember, we are still growing at 7.4%, but we in India believe our potential is 9%. So, it's that expectation. It's also the, as far as banks are concerned specifically, it's also about during this period when everybody's cash flows are low, how will the companies service their debt? So it's a little bit about, that feeling as well. So I think it's a multiplicity of factors. But as I would put it, I think it's more about the fear of the unknown risk.
Yeah.
What can come next. I think it's really that.
Bad loans, also an issue in India. Governor Rajan has set a deadline to clean that up. For your bank, where are we with the bad loans, and can you meet that deadline? Is that achievable?
I think we must remember that in India, the stress on the loans, first of all, is in certain sectors, certain companies. The rest of the retail loans, the small and medium sector actually continue to be retail. In fact, is very, very healthy even today, in spite of growing so fast. The larger companies, have set up capacities assuming a 9% growth rate. The growth rates came down. Project implementations got delayed. Commodity prices became low. So obviously the cash flows are much less than what were anticipated, and that brings about some amount of stress in servicing the debt. Well, I think, we are as banks in any case working with the promoters to find solutions, get them to sell core assets, get them to sell non-core assets. But in today's economy where everything is so slow, even those solutions take a bit of time. Whatever RBI is saying only strengthens our hands.
Yeah.
So I think, I think we are all together moving in the right direction. And I think all these issues are solvable. And we must make sure that we solve them in the right manner and not in a value-destructive manner. And that's what we are all doing.
Talk to me about the profitability of your bank, then, the outlook for the rest of 2016. Have you adjusted that based on what you've seen in the last few months?
Of course, in India, our financial years begin in April. So clearly, whatever is happening in the global economy will have to be taken into account as we make our next year's plans.
In terms of the euphoria around India, Prime Minister Modi came into power and people were very optimistic about what he would do in terms of reforms. Are you happy with what you've seen so far?
I think in terms of reforms, a lot has been done, actually, in terms of attracting foreign direct investment in various very important sectors, in terms of very large transformative projects like Digital India, Make in India, and so on and so forth, so which are actually going to have a huge long-term impact on the growth in the economy. I think today what people are really looking for is the gradual improvement lower down on the real economy, and that, as I said, we are seeing, we must remember India is a very complex economy, and to change tracks, to implement things, it just takes long. So I think we are going through that phase where things are getting implemented. It'll be time as we see the results.
What could he do better? If Prime Minister Modi called you now, what would your advice be to him, given the financial turbulence around the world? What would you tell him that he needs to do?
I think, you know, given what's happening globally, I think we should actually seize this as an opportunity for India. We should use this time to, in fact, create capacities at low cost. But, you know, this is the time where the government spending, the spending from the public sector will have to take the lead. And as the private sector debt levels get adjusted, that is when their investments would come. So I think be on the forefront and make those investments which are required, which can create the multiplier impact on the economy.